G'day, this is Mr. Thompson, and in this video I will show you how to assemble your body and your wheels and some axles that we'll create into an assembly which shows how all of the parts fit together. So this is what we're going to create, something that looks a little bit like this. So if we have a look, let's have a look at the browser and see how this works. So what we've got up the top here is we've got, see those three blocks there in an L shape? That shows that we've got, well, it's actually called a component. I'd probably call it an assembly because it's a component that has other components underneath it. See these blocks here? Each of those blocks is its own separate component. And you'll see those blocks, under those blocks you've got sketches and you've got bodies and an origin and all that sort of stuff. So each one of those is a component, but all of those components together make an assembly, or like the icon here, it's actually a component that's got subcomponents. So that's what we want to get to. And in fact, if we're clever, we can create joints which show how the different components fit together. And so we can do things like we can spin the wheels around, and which is, I guess that's not super important, but it's pretty cool. Anyway, let's close that and let's get back to where we are at the moment. So I won't save that. Now, you might have one of two things. I'm not sure where your starting point is going to be. So let's just spend a couple of minutes, have a look at your model and see at the top level, does your model have a cube up the top there, or does your model have 3 cubes? If you've already got 3 cubes up the top there, that means you followed my video exactly, and it means that down here, you've got a component, you've already got a subcomponent, and up the top here, you've already started to build an assembly. That's really where we want to be as our starting point. You might find, I think when I gave instructions in class, I actually instructed you to build it like this, where you've actually got a cube up the top here at the top level. And so what that is, that's just a single component. You haven't got an assembly there at all yet, and that's okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to turn that into that, and then we'll get started. Now, if you've already got that, you can ignore this first part of the video. So let's just put that away. Okay, so if this is what you've got here, a CO2 Dragster single component, so if you've got a cube at the top there, let me just close that. And we're going to start with a brand new design. And if I come over here, that was my single component that just had the cube at the top. If I drag that now into my new design, what's going to happen is it's going to create, see that's the component that I just dragged in, and that is the new design. So what's happening now is we're starting to put components into an assembly. So it's simple as that. So now we should all have, before we start building this assembly now, everybody should have the 3 blocks up the top here, and down here your dragster component with one single block there. Okay, so what we want to do, actually I'm just going to go okay there. Right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by creating a sketch. So if I click on, now before I do anything else, I've got to make sure that top circle has a dot in it. If you've got a circle without a dot, you need to click on there to activate that top level component. Okay, now I want to create a sketch. So click on sketch, and I want to put a sketch on this mid plane here. So the plane that's that runs right down the middle of the body of the dragster. Now, if you haven't got that plane that runs, let me just move it so you can see that plane there that runs right down the middle. Now, if you haven't got a plane, if you didn't build your body symmetrical, I know some of you didn't do that, you can come and see me in class and I'll show you how to create a mid-plane. And you can use the mid-plane instead of the, see, we've already got a mid-plane. So I'm going to click on that plane there. That's the one I'm going to put my sketch on. Now, all I want in my sketch is these 2 holes, because we're going to turn them into axles. So what I'm going to do is P on my keyboard, P for project, and I'm going to project that hole zoom in a little bit. When I zoom in and zoom out, I'm using my my mouse wheel to do that. So click on that one and then click on that one. So those two circles now have been projected into the sketch. So okay. Now I'm going to do E for extrude, and I'm only going to do one at a time because I want these axles to be separate components. I'm going to click on that circle there and I'm going to extrude it. Now I want to do symmetric. I'm doing two sides symmetrically, so I click on symmetric and I'm going to do the whole length distance of 90 millimeters, 90 like that. Okay, and down here the operation, I don't want a new body, I actually want my axles to be a new component, So click on new component, we'll click OK, and let's just click on our home button here to see what that's done and have a look around. See, that's created an axle there, which is terrific. And you can see here, there's the axle, that's the new axle that I've created. So I'm going to click there and then click again and type, well, that one's going to be the rear axle, like that. Actually, while I'm labeling things, I'm going to come up to the sketch there and I'm just going to, that's the sketch that I just created. So remember, I've got a whole bunch of sketches in here which I created when I created the body. I'm not, I haven't named them all. I should go back and name them. Never mind. Okay, this sketch here, I'm going to click on this sketch here and I'm going to call that, that's my axle profiles, I guess I'll call them. That's the sketch that I created that's got the holes in it. So always good to label things. All right, so there's my rear axle. Now, my rear axle is good, but if I grab my rear axle, I can move it around. And that's no good. So I'm just going to go Control Z to put it back where it came from. I don't want it to be able to move around. I want to join that component to the body, the main dragster body. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to press, actually you can do up here, assemble. We can do a joint, but we're going to do an as-built joint. And you can see the shortcut for that is Shift J. So anyway, we're here now, so let's click on it, an as-built joint. And we're going to select the axle and the main dragster body, because they're the two things that I want to join. And the join type, I'm going to choose a rigid joint because I don't want these to spin, because in real life they don't spin, do they? We've just jammed them in there and they're stuck, they're rigid. So I'm going to click OK, like that. And up here under joints, we can see that we've created a rigid joint. I'm going to click again there and I'm just going to call that rear axle to body. So just naming my joint so I can tell what it is. And see how you can see that joint, that funny little symbol down there. I'm just going to turn joints off and click somewhere else. So that joint, I don't want to have joints all over my, I don't want the joints to be visible. They're still there. So now if I click on that and try to move it, I can't move that axle. All right. Now, I'm going to do the same for the front. So I'm going to turn this sketch, my axle profile sketch, I'm going to turn that back on, because what I want to do now is I want to, in fact, I don't need to turn it on. What I need to do is double click on it. I want to go back into that sketch and I want to E for extrude. And this time I'm going to extrude the front axle. And again, I'm going to go symmetric, whole length, 90 millimeters, and make it a new component. Okay, and there we go. We can see that component there. I'm going to call that component, here it is on my browser tree. That is the front axle, like so. And I'm going to create a joint. So this time I'll use the shortcut Shift J for joint, Shift J. Actually, the axle's already clicked. So if you haven't already selected the axle, select it now. Then we're going to select the body. So two components are selected. Again, another rigid joint. Click on OK. Come up here. I'm going to name that joint. I'm going to call that front axle to body, like that. Okay, so now I've got my axles. Now I'm going to put my wheels in. Let's see. Now, you might have created some designs for some 3D printable wheels, and you could use those. Or if you haven't created your own wheel designs, you could use the standard front wheel and standard rear wheel. Now, I've provided some files that you can use for those, and those files are on Brightspace. So if you download those files from our class Brightspace website, if you download those files onto your computer, then what you do is you click here on Upload, and you select the files that you downloaded from Brightspace and click on Upload here, and it will load them up. I don't have to do them, mine already there. It'll load them up into this folder here, so then you can now use them. All right, let's start with the rear one. So once they're in there, I'm going to take my standard rear wheel and I'm going to just drag it and drop it anywhere here. It doesn't matter where I put it, because no matter where I put it, it'll always appear at the origin here. And see these arrows here? We've got arrows here. Those handles there can rotate, but I don't want to rotate, so I'm not going to use those. These arrows here allow us to move. Let's just move it. I'm just going to move it out of the way a little bit so it's not cluttered up back there. And I'm going to click OK. All right. Now, let's see. Now, what I want to do is I want to align that wheel with that axle. So if I come up here and go Modify, Align, like that. And now I need to, it's asking me to say from where to where. Okay, so from's highlighted. So I'll come in here. I'm going to just click on that center point of that axle there. Well, not the axle, the center point of the wheel. And then I'm going to come over here and click on the center point of that axle, like that. Okay, and it's aligned them. Now I'm not going to capture position just yet because I haven't finished. I'm going to click OK. Let me just view from here. I need to move that wheel in a little bit closer, because remember, we've got a spacer there and the wheel is in closer, and there's another spacer on the outside. So I'm going to do M for move on my keyboard, M for move. Now I'm going to move not bodies, I'm going to move a component, because my wheel is a component. Now, can you see, clicking on the wheel is not a good idea. When I'm moving a component, I come and click on the actual component in the browser tree. It's a lot easier like that. Otherwise, you don't know where all these arrows are going to end up. Now, I'm going to move it in and out like that. So, and I'm going to move it back that way. I think if let's just have a look at this like that. I think that's too close in. I'm going to just, with my keyboard, I'm going to change that to -4 millimeters. You decide where you want it. That to me, that looks better, just more evenly spaced. Now this time I am going to capture the position, and that will put the position on the timeline. So if I go OK, there's the position on the timeline. Okay, because that, and I captured it because that's my final position. All right, now I need to create a joint now between my wheel and my axle. So Shift J, because my wheel's already in the right position. Components, okay, I'm going to click on my wheel first. Now I'm going to click on my axle, because the joint is between the wheel and the axle, not the wheel and the body, the wheel and the axle. Now, I don't want a rigid joint. I want the wheel to be able to turn. So I'm going to use a revolute joint. So click on revolute joint, and it's going to ask me to select the origin. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to select the very center of that circle there, of the axle. And now you can see my wheel can rotate. And I can click on here, preview motion, and that'll show it rotating. Okay, click on OK, and we are done. So now you can see I can move my wheel around. That's pretty cool, isn't it? All right, and now what I'm going to do is I want the wheel to be back in its original position. So I'm just going to go revert position, and it'll put the wheel back to that last position that we captured. All right. Now, instead of doing all that again, I'm simply going to reflect. I'm going to create a mirror image of that wheel on the other side. So how do I do that? Create mirror, and I want a mirror, not a body. I want to mirror a whole component. So that component there, the wheel, and the mirror plane, click on mirror plane, is that plane that's in the middle of, down the center of my dragster. And then we can see it's done a preview. If I move around here, it's shown a preview. Now it hasn't got the preview right, but that's okay. It'll fix it up when I click OK. And, oh, that's a bit weird. There we go. Just took a little while. So now that's in place. Now I need a joint there as well. So let me just see. I'm going to do Shift J, and I'm going to connect that wheel to that axle with a join, and that is the center. That's my axis that I'm going to rotate around, and that's rotating nicely. Okay, click OK there. Now I should name those joints, shouldn't I? Now if I'm ever not sure which joints are which, what I can do is I can right click on the joint and I can animate the joint. Oh, that didn't help, did it? There we go. Can you see it's that joint is moving? So I can tell that that joint there, Revolute 3, that's for my right wheel. So I press Escape now to get out of that animation mode. Go up here, click, and let's name that right rear, right rear wheel to axle. Oh, and it helped if I could spell correctly. There we go. And this one here, let's just check that will be the left one. It is. Escape, click there, and now I can say left rear wheel to axle. Okay, and my joints are named. All right, I'm just going to do the same thing I just did then, but this time for the front wheels. Let's go a little bit quicker. So I'm going to drag the front wheel out to here, and it'll appear there. I'm just going to move it out a little bit and move it back a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. Click on OK. Let's zoom in there. Now I'm going to go modify align, and I'm going to align that center there with that center there, like that. Click on OK. M on my keyboard, M for move, and move that component there. Let's just view from the top. I'm going to come in. This time I'm going to come into about -8 millimeters. You do whatever distance looks best on your car. Your car design might be a little bit different to mine, so put it where you think it looks best. Now it's in its final position, so I'm going to capture that position. Okay. Now I'm going to make my joint. So Shift J to make my as-built joint. I want to connect the wheel to the axle. And my origin has got to be that center point of the axle, like that. That's looking good. Okay. And then I'm going to create a mirror of that wheel. Select my mirror plane to be that center plane there. And let's see, that looks pretty good. Okay, almost there. Now I'm going to create my joint, Shift J, connect my wheel to my axle and choose my rotation point because it's a revolute joint, and click on OK, like so. There we go. And you know what? We're almost done. I think the only thing I've got to do here is, I think that's the, actually I can see because I see how I've selected that and it shows me that that's my right wheel. So let's just, actually I'm just going to click there, rename it. I'm going to call that, what do I call that? Right front wheel to axle. And that joint there is going to be my left front wheel to axle. Just to be sure, let's just animate it. That one should be the left one. Yeah, that's the left one there. Good. Okay, escape. We're good. So there's our assembly. That's all we need to do for this one. What I'll do next, our next video, actually, you know what I'm going to do? Just click somewhere else. The only thing I haven't done is I haven't turned my sketches off. See my sketches still on there? Let's just turn that off. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is the next video will show you how to do a dimensioned drawing, which fortunately is actually pretty easy in Fusion. So that's next video. All right, that's it. Hope that was useful.